Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here. This time I'd like to call the Burke County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for Tuesday, February the 19th, 2019 to order. Madam Clerk, all the commissioners are here along with the county manager and the county attorney. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would, check your telephones and other devices that you might have at this time, and please put those on silent for us, and we would appreciate that. And if you're called to speak tonight, when you come to the front, please smash the button to the right on the microphones, and a little red light will come on at top, and that will indicate that you're ready to speak to us. Tonight, for our invocation, we have Pastor Ed Stevenson from Arnie's Fairview UMC with us again. Brother Stevenson is very kind to come with us a lot to offer our invocation, and then after the invocation, we have students, and a lot of them, yay, there you are, a lot of good students from Glen Alpin Elementary School, where Principal Caroline Howard and C.J. Shuffler, the guidance counselor, along with Jessica Ravella and Lisa McKee are here tonight with those kids. And as soon as the pastor gets through with the invocation, we'll go into the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'll stand for me, Brother Arnie. Yes, sir.
God of us all, we thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to gather to discuss the polity of this wonderful, beautiful county that we are privileged to live in. Lord, we thank you for this group of individuals who share so much of themselves to lead this county in the direction that they believe that it must go, and it is generally just right. We thank you for them, Lord. We thank you for their efforts. Father, help us all to remember that disagreeing is not caring for one another. It is simply that. Differences of opinion. Lord, we just ask that you be with everyone here tonight, that all be heard, and that all leave here with joy in their hearts. But now we thank you, Lord, for the privilege of being here, being in this facility, and being with this group of austere people. We make our plea, we offer our prayer in his most precious name. Amen.
Amen.
Everyone, please salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
With liberty and justice for all. If you guys will wait right there, we want to come down and take a picture with you. And parents, please come on up front where you can get a good picture of us. I mean them.
Scrunch in, scrunch, scrunch, scrunch. Hey.
Parents, come on up. There you go. All right, anybody else? Let's give these kids a good round of applause. Well, we unfortunately lost half of our audience. All right, gentlemen, moving to item number 4 is the approval of the agenda. There's no changes in it at this time.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion approved by Commissioner Abley. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hands. That would be 5-0, Madam Clerk. Moving on to item number 5 is the approval of the meeting minutes. Our minutes are from December the 18th, 2018 for our regular meeting, and January the 2nd, 2019 from our pre-agenda meeting.
Move to accept, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion from Commissioner Mulvey. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. Moving on to our presentations for the night. Our first presentation is regarding the library, the Morganton Public Library Facility Study, presented by Bill Bergen and Jim Wilson, our library director. Jim?
Thank you all very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm very pleased to be here tonight to share some information with you about the facility study we just had completed on the Morganton Public Library. We're very glad to have one of our consultants, architect Bill Bergen, here tonight to give you that presentation. I want to give you just a couple of points on background. The last time we had a facility study was in 2008, 10 years ago. It was a comprehensive study of our library system. All 3 sites were looked at. The 2 major things that came out of that study were this. One, we were told that we had less than half the space we ought to have for a county our size. And 2, the consultant at that time prioritized the facilities in order of who needed improvement first. At the top of the list was Hildebrand, followed by Valdez, and then Morganton. And thanks to this board, we can mark number 1 off the list. We have a wonderful new library and senior center in Hildebrand. By the end of the year, we can mark number 2 off the list, Valdez. They're getting an expansion right now that will add 50% to their square footage. So the last one on the list is Morganton. And it having been 10 years since we last looked at it, we felt this was a good time to take another look and see what we needed to do. Get some input from the public, since they're the ones that use the library, and kind of see what our options were. So at this time, I'll turn things over to Bill Bergen, architect with RBSA, and he will give you the presentation. Thank you. Okay.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, County Manager. We appreciate the opportunity to kind of quickly go over the study. Obviously, this is the results of the study, and it's in kind of an executive review sort of format. And let me make sure I'm pointing this in the right direction. Maybe not. There you go. All right. So we did conduct, and I say we, my brother is a doctor, a PhD in library science, and he's been a professor. He's also been director and associate director at Winston-Salem and Goldsboro. So has a lot of experience, does this across the state and actually across the Southeast. And as an architect, I've designed 33 public libraries in North Carolina, ranging from Ashe County all the way to Perquimans County, and as far south as Rutherford County. So we've done 33 libraries, so we have a little bit of an expertise we've tried to apply. The question that we have tried to answer is how adequate is the Morganton Public Library facility, knowing that the Morganton Library has not had a major renovation, certainly not a growth in space within the last 20 years. And 20 years is about the cycle that we see libraries need to have additions made if growth is pretty consistent. Also, we tried to look at whether or not it would be better to do a new facility or whether we could do better if we expanded the existing facility. So that was part of what we were trying to look at. And this is kind of the conclusion, is that the facility is too small. if you take the population and you run the kind of generic numbers that we have to compare libraries across the state, number of population versus size of building, it did calculate too small. And that's after we deducted the two libraries in Hildebrand and Valdez. So it netted out that we were too small. It's smaller than 5 of the 7 headquarters in the counties surrounding you. We did confirm that with our meeting with the public, various groups, from the friends to the trustees to the staff, to users, to public officials. So we did kind of do an interview session with each of those groups, and they confirmed the size was too small. And then, of course, I mentioned that typically libraries expand every 20 years, and it's been 38 years since that particular library has had a major renovation. So the next thing that we tried to do was determine, the amount of space that you need, and we based it on population of 60,739, and then projected, which is the projected population of the county for 20 years in the future. Took all the space needs for books, collections, so forth, and determined that we needed 35,764 square feet. You currently have 18,000. So the gap is the difference between the two. And then, of course, the parking is the other issue we try to count. The study indicated 179, and you have 1. Now, in fairness to the library, you have good neighbors, and so you have parking on each side, but it's still vastly short of 179. So we looked at 2 options, of course. One was to build new. The advantages of new is you could have, kind of a clean slate, perfect, efficient layout, support modern technology, environmental sustainability could be built in, aesthetics could be any aesthetic that you want. And then, of course, we could comply with the building code, and there may be some advantages to a new site. We didn't try to find new sites, but in terms of access and what have you. And then we looked at the renovation side, and everybody seemed to be satisfied with that location. And they also liked the architecture, particularly of the original library building. And this, I think the Morganton city has built in that particular location for the library and how it supports downtown, and also it sets pretty close to a new road that they're planning to do that's behind, and I apologize for not knowing what the name of that road is, but they have plans for that road, and this fits on that. It's kind of an arch road that goes down to the auditorium and back up, so it's in a good location, and the patrons liked it. So anyway, those were the options as to whether or not we stayed, and our recommendation is to retain the current facade, which is the original building, built in 1935, demolish the rest that were built around it, and then to build a new facility that will end up being, of course, the majority of the library. And so we'll be able to get the technology and get all of the kind of contemporary and modern things that get built into libraries. We'll be able to incorporate that. And then to demolish the houses behind the library to make parking. And this is kind of how that lays out. Just to give you a general idea, this is a proof of concept. It may be 80% correct, maybe 90, but the point is it does prove that site location can be made into a good site for the enlargement of the library. And so on the left is the existing. You can see it's kind of that cross-shaped building. That's the original building. And the parking on the right, you can see, is the museum parking. And so we propose that you tear off the back of that and then build this new library, put the parking in the very back, and so you'll have a pedestrian entrance on the front and then a vehicular entrance on the back. Now, it's short of 179 parking spaces in this scheme because the property is limited, but you still do have those 2 shared lots, the museum lot and also the church lot. So that gets pretty close to 179. This is kind of an idea of what the floor plan may be. This happens to be the main level. You can see in the blue, that represents the original building. And then we are building around it. Now, one of the things that we try to propose for libraries, and I think this is, would not just be us, but any architectural firm that knows libraries and library design and construction, we try to make it open so that it can be real flexible. Because what we've found is as time passes, different collections become more important, and some collections become less important. So if it's wide open, you can grow the ones that need to grow, and you can shrink the ones that can shrink and stay in the same space. And so we are proposing that this be as wide open as possible. Now, clearly, there'll have to be, column and structure, but the point is it would appear to be pretty open, so it's very flexible. We do have, as you come into the vehicular side, the back side, which is the top of that slide, staff on the left side, and then Friends of the Library on the right side. So we built those offices in that. And then we have a nice space for youth, and then the fiction, nonfiction books, and then some more space up front. It's kind of shown in the purple. The lower level would look like this. Obviously, it sits underneath the one above. In this case, we are trying to expand the community room. In this case, it's a community room that's at least twice the size of the one they have, maybe a little more. It has a movable partition, which would allow them to have 2 meeting rooms bigger than the one they have now. And this particular library and staff emphasize programming for the community. And so they certainly could use the extra space. We also have the children's down here, which is where they are now. We've given them a little bit stronger story time area. And then we have also put the North Carolina history room down here. Again, they are the first group to run out of space, and it's very important. This is one of the better history collections in the state of North Carolina. So they now, I think, are in hallways, and they don't have proper office space and proper space to even take on new collections, and so this would give them the additional space that would need. And this is kind of just an image. Again, this is just proof of concept. This is the original library building. We all recognize it. But you could do an addition that kind of mimics that. Now, you could also do something that complements it. It's a little more contemporary. We're not saying this is the solution. We're just saying it's proof of concept. And so if you kind of walk around this proposal, that would be the right side or left side from the front. You can kind of see how it's growing. We were proposing that the scale of the new addition would complement the scale of the original building. That's really what's most important to us. And we'll swing it a little further around. You'd have some entrances into the parking, covered drive-through so that people could be let off or picked up in inclement weather such as we have right now. And then you can kind of get an idea of the land, how the bird's eye view would be parking in the back and the expansion of the library. Again, trying to keep the scale of that building compatible with the one out front. And then, of course, this is the one everybody wants to talk about, and which is the cost. The average cost right now for libraries we're finding is about $267 a square foot. And that all, of course, is a function of how elaborate you build or how conservative you build. Then we would add or suggest adding 10% for FF&E so that you could add your fixture and your furniture and equipment. So that based on the size that we're proposing in this particular case, this would be about a $10.5 million project. So it's significant. And of course, the true cost is determined on the day that you bid it. We have been, through a real kind of a high inflationary time in 2018, and so hopefully that's going to stabilize now. Maybe even if you're lucky, drop a couple of percentage, but won't do much. And of course, my experience, 43 years in architecture, is that usually costs go up. It's just not as fast as 2018. So anyway, we have built the 2018 inflation into that number. So again, 10.5 million is what I think you would be looking at today's dollars. So now that's our presentation. I'll try to answer questions if you have them.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard Bill's presentation. Questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I have several, and I asked a lot at pre-agenda, so, one of the things I caught yesterday in reviewing it again is something that's on your sheet, and you said they had to tear down the houses that are there. Do we own the houses?
Friends of the Library, I think, own the houses, or the foundation? The foundation owns the houses, so yes, the answer is you
So the
do.
cost in the build does not have a figure in it to pay for those houses, correct? If we won't have to buy them.
Gaining that property is not in this number.
Yeah,
Tearing down the houses and paving is in this number, but actually acquiring the property, hopefully you could get that reasonably from the Friends.
and to be fair and more accurate with the square footage, the square footage that you have listed for Burke County does not include the square footage for Valdez and/or Hildebrand. So you actually, instead of having 18,000 square foot of library room in Burke County, you have 34,500, as we are now.
The total square footage that we need is the 34,000 plus Hildebrand and Valdez. That's what the calculation shows. So those two came out of the calculated number.
Yeah, but your chart included both libraries in Catawba and 2 libraries in another one, but did not include the additional libraries that we have in Burke. So, and I wondered why that was. And also your chart shows 10% increase in 17 years in population.
Yeah.
And you're asking for double the square footage for 10% growth. I know we're backing up a little bit. I mean, we should have, we probably should have looked at this library building maybe 10 years ago. So even if you take it back 10 years, you're still not, going anywhere near the double to have the double foot. So that becomes a concern to me. And the cost per foot of $267 per square foot is you said is the going rate now. Anticipating looking forward, what's that rate going to be 2 or 3 years from now when we get situated?
As far as the rate goes, normally we figure 3% a year. That's what we would normally present as to our owners as a growth potential. So if you're talking about 3 years, it'd probably add 10%. Now, as I mentioned, 2018 was just really unusual. We saw 18% growth, but that's not usual. Usually we'd use 3%. So depending on when we're ready to build, you would have 3% for every year going forward. So what was the other question you asked? Oh, about the size and the population. It may not be a direct correlation over time with population. It's a correlation of how libraries' services have grown as it relates to population. And so what that says to me is that the services have grown faster than just simply the population. And we used today's service numbers against population as opposed to trying to figure out how fast those services grew. So that's why that's probably not correlating exactly with population.
My next question, probably a Jim question, but has there been any talk or discussion on getting a fund drive and to gather some of the money in advance for this project? Can we, and I was thinking about 2 different committees, one to get individual donations and the other one is to talk to the business and industry of the thing. And if you do, Jim, I want to be on the one with the industry and, but anyhow, again, how much is the cost for the Valdez improvement, isn't it?
The Valdez expansion is about $900,000 project.
How much?
900,000.
Yeah, so it's a little under $1 million. So we're looking at that. We paid for Hildebrand as we went, thanks to some good monitoring and decision making. But I just wondered if there's possibility that we're gonna look at, some campaign drives or fund drives.
If that's something you all wanted us to look at, we would certainly do that. In fact, we have a library foundation, and a large part of their purpose is to raise funds for the library. The last time the Morganton Library was renovated was in 2000. So that's been almost 20 years ago. At that time, we were not a county department. The Library Foundation raised $600,000 in private money, and then the county and the city each gave $187,500 towards that renovation. So they have experience doing that, and I know they would be willing to help with that for this project, if that's something you all decide you want to do.
I think my final question is, do we have an estimate on how much finance charge we're gonna have, and the terms, how long, and what that interest rate might be to borrow that money?
Not on our end.
Okay. Of course, the taxpayers don't, they don't pay back the cost of the building, they pay back the cost of the finance and the total budget item. And it's going up every day, so the interest I'm referring to, so that's the reason for the question. Mr. Chairman, I believe that's all I have. All the questions I have on that subject.
Thank you, Commissioner Tyler. Jim, what will Morganton's participation be in this project?
Well, I don't know that. That would be something to discuss with them. All I can do is go back to the last time we did a project like this, and they did at that time match the county's portion. Again, we were not a county department then, but they did do a 50-50 split of what was asked for.
Other questions for Jim?
Just a point of clarity, Mr. Chairman. When you were giving your presentation, I know you kind of misspoke there for a second. You said the 2037 projections on population was 60,000 for the county. It's actually 60,000 for this serviceable area for this particular library. I want to make that clear, because the projections actually are about 100,000, depending on whether you look at the COG or the state number. So when you're thinking about this, you also got to remember the other 40,000 are being served by Valdez and Hildebrand. So, we got to take that into account. And I think, looking at this first blush, obviously, I think you've done a good job. And it's, I think we all recognize is needed to pass due. One other question too, and I think you mentioned this when I was in a meeting earlier with you. I guess it's probably been a month or two ago. Somebody asked me about the North Carolina room being downstairs.
Right.
Now that's a high traffic area. Now, are you putting it downstairs because it drives traffic unto itself, or, when your initial thinking is? I just kind of want an explanation.
Yeah, when you're doing a multi-story building solution, in an ideal world, you finish your program, they're matched, they're the same. And what we were really trying to do was get as close to that as possible, knowing that the history room, those patrons will find it no matter where we put it. And it's not being disparaging, it's just a fact. You can put it in the attic and they'll go up there and find it. So we had space in the lower level. We didn't feel like we could split up the upper level collections in any better way. So that's what happened. We ended up with children and history room down there, and we could give them all the space they needed.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to accept this report.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion from Commissioner Moley. All in favor, signify by raising your right hands. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. Thank you, Bill. Thank you,
Thank
Jim.
you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Don't leave this on. Put this on.
Yeah, leave it on.
Leave it on.
Moving on to item number 2 is a presentation on spay and neuter from the Reason Incorporated. That'll be presented by Debbie Hawkins, President of Reason Inc. Debbie, come on up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You all have your handouts now. Don't read ahead. I know how it is. February is National Spay and Neuter Month. We were asked to present information on spay and neuter. My name is Debbie Hawkins, and I represent the Reason Program, which serves Burke County. Our mission statement is simple: reduce euthanasia and spay or neuter. We have 12 volunteers working actively to educate the public on the benefits of spaying and neutering, offering opportunities for individuals to get their animals fixed at a reduced cost. Through partnering with all Burke County vets, we have completed over 3,000 surgeries in 6 years. Rather than present basic information on spaying and neutering, we thought it would be more meaningful if the information related directly to the animals of Burke County. You have a copy of a questionnaire in front of you. For each question, there is a reference noted based on direct conversations with Burke County citizens or current research. I will read the question out loud. You can write your answer. You don't have to tell us what your answer is. And I will tell you the correct answer at the end of each question. You can turn the page. Question number 1. Which of the following are common beliefs that prevent Burke County citizens from getting their male dogs and cats neutered? He will feel less of a male. It will make him pee like a girl. He can't have a litter, so what's the harm? I want a pup off him, or all the above. If you have a pen, you can write down your answer. The correct answer is all the above. Reason volunteers who take calls and meet citizens to sign up animals hear these comments. The adults in Burke County should be the role models for our youth. However, we have found adults need educating on spaying and neutering and pet retention to stop the cycle of unwanted puppies and kittens in our county. Question number 2. Which of the following are common beliefs that prevent Burke County citizens from getting their female dogs and cats spayed? She's got to have a litter to feel like a mama. She'll get fat and lazy. I want my children to experience the miracle of birth. It's healthier for my female to have one litter before getting her fixed, or all the above. All the above. Again, these comments heard by our Reason volunteers. All of these beliefs about spaying and neutering in questions 1 or 2 are myths, but are strong opinions in our county that prevent dog and cat owners from fixing their pets. Many surrounding counties have moved past these beliefs. It is our ethical responsibility to bring Burke County forward by challenging these outdated misconceptions. The next 2 questions relate back to these misconceptions. Last year, the county approved 51 free spay and neuter surgeries and a free rabies vaccination that animal control officers would give out on a complaint call. 38 cards were given out. Last year, what percentage of clients who received a free spay-neuter card from animal control failed to follow up and call Reason to schedule? 35% or 67%? 67%. So, only 33% of the citizens who received a card for a free spay or neuter and a free rabies vaccination for their pet followed through and got the pet fixed. Why is that? One can guess, even when it's free, it's not a priority. It goes back to the beliefs listed and how the owner's lack of concern for those around him or her impacts all of us. Some are oblivious to the primary reason for the complaint. Why is it that these owners' indifference are allowed to continue the cycle of overpopulation in our county? Question number 4. Which gender is the most difficult to convince about the benefits of spaying and neutering their pet? Females or males? Males. Most of the people who call our program are females, and the males have a more difficult time considering fixing their pets in their home. Men are more reluctant to agree to neuter their pets. I could comment on that, but I won't. Number 5, what is the national average of animals brought into animal controls that were unaltered? 90%? 35%? 90%. What is the average number of animals brought into Burke County Animal Control in 2018 that were unaltered? A few or a majority? Majority. However, animal control does not track these numbers. What we do know is that Friends for Animals employs a veterinarian to spay and neuter their animals they pull from animal control. Hartman's Haven reported that out of the 52 dogs they pulled in the past 13 months, 45 were unaltered. Mercy Fund reported 3 of the 4 they pulled were unaltered, and staff at Animal Control estimate that most of the animals entering animal control are unaltered. All animals from the rescue organizations spay or neuter the animals prior to adopting them out to the community. Question number 7. How many litters were turned into Burke County Animal Control in 2018? 43, 237, or none of the above? This isn't tracked by Animal Control. None of the above. This is the one statistic that would help with targeting specific areas of the county for spaying and neutering in the future. Question number 8. What is the number of litters reported to have already been born to Reason Animal clients in 2018? 43 or 111? 111. Now, using the pet overpopulation pyramid, you have a copy of it, it's that laminated sheet. Let's see how the 111 litters born from these animals before they were fixed may have impacted on our county. With an average of 6 puppies or kittens born per litter per year, with the 111 litters reported, you would have an average of 666 puppies or kittens born in just 1 year. And this is just from our clients. With an average of an additional 666 dogs and cats that could in turn get pregnant or get another animal pregnant, you can see how this would significantly increase the number of unwanted and unaltered pets. And this is a low estimate. Question number 9. What is the number one response heard from clients whose animals had a litter before calling us? I had them all fixed before I gave them away. I found homes for them. Don't know how she got pregnant. I had her tied up. I found homes for them. Most people do not want to take their litters to animal control for fear they will be killed, which we understand. However, by giving away puppies and kittens that are unaltered, they are adding to the numbers at animal control, and if the parent animals had been fixed to start with, there'd be no litters. Now, on a brighter note, number 10. What are the benefits of spaying and neutering your animal? Decreased marking of territory in their home, decreased destructive behaviors, reduced aggression, less likely to roam away from home, decreased risk of cancer, decreased distraction and makes training easier, decreased number of unwanted dogs and cats, or decreased attracting unwanted males around your home. Or I, all the above. It is all the above. In fact, most of these behaviors are the very reason for owners surrendering their animals to animal control. Although both spaying and neutering are major surgical procedures, the overall incidence of serious complications is very low. Number 11. What is the number of dogs and cats who were killed at Burke County Animal Control, buried in our landfill, or sold to research labs in 2018? And let me clarify, the sold to research labs is the carcass and not live animals, okay? A, 2,259 or 1,034? 2,259. 27 more than last year, but 3,241 fewer than when we started. We can do better, but not without changing our beliefs and our attitudes. Last question. What are solutions surrounding counties have enacted to address the pet overpopulation issue? An unaltered pet fee, enforcement of leash laws, breeder registration to reduce backyard breeding, reduce cost spay and neuter programs, tracking individuals who repeatedly turn in litters to animal control, allowing all rescue groups open access to pull animals, scheduled appointment times to surrender a pet to discuss the alternatives, volunteer support at animal control, or all the above. All the above. Unaltered animals are seen as a nuisance in Burke County. We spend nearly $250,000 tax dollars each year to house and euthanize abandoned dogs and cats at animal control currently under the Sheriff's Department. Networking animals out of animal control is best practice. We could use the officers to enforce the laws that are already in place rather than house and euthanize animals. When unconcerned citizens neglect to alter their pets, they are passing the financial and emotional burden onto the county to house and euthanize dogs and cats, or onto the rescue groups to rehome them. The cost belongs with the owner who decided to get a pet. We hope this information presented helps you recognize that Burke County has fallen behind in animal welfare and needs a strategic plan to move us forward. One thing is crystal clear. It is time we stop blaming the animals for being a nuisance. Reason's goal is to bring this poster back to you next year, and with teamwork and collaboration, we know this number could be a 0. Thank you. For your participation, you are getting a reward, because we reward our dogs when they do things that they're supposed to. And these little rewards were a collaborative effort on the part of Hartman's Haven Dog Rescue and the Reason Program.
Debbie, if you'll remain up there.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you for a great presentation, and secondly, thank you for the gifts that you're passing out. So at this time, I will ask the commissioners if anyone has any questions or comments for Debbie at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I did have two. I wondered, Debbie, what your budget was and the resource from which you get that budget. How do you get the funds?
Our funds are strictly through copays, and we also submit a quarterly report to the state for North Carolina spay and neuter reimbursement funds. That is only for the lowest of the income people.
Final comment, if I had a tail, I'd wag it in thanks for the gift.
Other questions or comments? Cut your mic on, please.
Thank you. Okay. Going back to your questions, help me out with question number 8. What is the number of litters reported to have already been born to Reason animal clients in 2018?
Yep.
Can you explain that?
How do we get that number? And Kay has some other handouts that has actually all the notes and the references to these questions. What we do is when we meet with clients to do their paperwork, we ask them, how many litters has your animal already had? And we track that on a database, okay? So that's how we come up with the number 111 litters from the animals that we fixed last year. They had already had 111 litters.
Okay, thank you.
All right, other questions or comments? Hearing none, I will accept a motion to accept this report as presented. Thank you, Commissioner Taylor, and you've heard that motion. All in favor signify by raising the right hands. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. Thank you so very, very much.
And if you didn't get the soda that you wanted, you can trade.
Gentlemen, moving on to item number 3 is a presentation of financial data from Keith Lawson. I've just found out Keith was unable to be here. We've got 2 options. We can go ahead and accept this presentation since we did hear the presentation at pre-agenda and it has not changed and we do have it in the packet, or you can require me to have Keith produce himself at a later date. Okay, we have a motion for Wayne to accept the report as presented. All in favor signify by raising of the right hands. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. Moving on to item number 4 is presentation of the financial data for the period ending December the 31st, 2018, presented by Sandy Holman from Western Piedmont Community College Chief Financial Officer. Sandy.
Good afternoon or evening. I will give a brief summary of our finances through December 31st, 2018, our 50% point of our fiscal year 2019. First, we'll look at our state funds in the first 3 columns. We have a formula budget of $14,003,491 with additional allocations that have come in so far this year of $613,477. So our total state budget as of December 31st was $14,616,968, which through December 31st, we spent 48.3% of the budget or $7,058,436. The next three columns in light blue represent the county budget and actual expenditures. Our current budget is $2,553,000. We have spent $1,089,225 through the second quarter, utilizing 42.7% of our budget. This is on a cash basis system, so it's actual expenditures spent, not including the encumbrances that we have. The final three columns show our institutional budget. We budgeted $5,789,520 for institutional funds, which include everything other than state or county funds, which could be student financial aid, grants, self-supporting courses, and our bookstore. Approximately 75% of these funds are student financial aid and the bookstore. Through the midpoint, we have spent 50% of our budget, so we feel we're on track there. Total combined college budget for fiscal year 2018-19 is $22,959,488, of which we've expended $11,049,308, or 48.1%. We anticipated a reversion this year, and that was confirmed in January of 2019. However, our budget is in good shape, and we have no concerns through this point of the year. The next slide that you will see will break down the expenditures by categories for our county funding. The top three expenditure categories continue to make up almost 70% of our budget, which includes salaries and benefits at 26.3%, utilities at 27.3%, and contracted services at 16.1%. This is our summary through December 31st. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sandy. Questions for Sandy on her report? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion to accept this report.
Mr. Chairman, I so make the motion to accept the report as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. All in favor of Commissioner Taylor's motion, signify by raising the right hands. That will be 5-0, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 5 will be a presentation on the history of tourism in Burke County, presented by Dr. Ed Phillips.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to present before the commissioners and everyone in attendance tonight. We have a short 37-minute video we'd like to show. It's really just 3 minutes. So we'll roll the video.
Hello, I'm Ed Phillips, CEO of the Burke County Tourism Development Authority, and I'd like to take a few minutes of your time to share with you some exciting, fantastic news about the tourism economy in Burke County. But first, did you know that Burke County has been a tourist destination since the late 1800s? When the Western North Carolina Railroad crossed into Burke County around 1880, this area was opened up for visitors to come enjoy the refreshing Mineral Springs hotels at Connolly Springs and Glen Alpine. The railroad brought them, and many stayed the entire summer. The Waldensians came from Italy in 1895, and they stayed forever. George Vanderbilt stopped in Burke County and searched for land to possibly construct his massive estate. But Burke was already a thriving place, and not enough land was available to suit him. As automobile travel became more reliable and the first U.S. highways were constructed, motor courts popped up and provided overnight accommodations for weary travelers. Then the interstate highways changed travel patterns again, and the Holiday Inn brand became synonymous with comfortable travel and swimming pools at each location. Interstate 40 became the lifeline for tourist travel into Western North Carolina, and Burke County was in a perfect location. Attractions and visitor resources became increasingly important. Here in Burke, we were blessed with a national forest, the Linville Gorge, and lakes and rivers for outdoor recreation. Campgrounds such as Steel Creek Park and Daniel Boone provided getaways with fun activities for all ages. Today, Burke County is a destination unto itself. There are art galleries, pottery studios, a fresco, 2 state parks, zip lining, wineries, breweries, and distilleries. State parks here saw nearly 1 million visitors in 2017. Hundreds of Burke County residents make their living inside of this tourism economy. These people are artists, destination retailers and restaurateurs, winemakers, brewmasters, distillers, and owners of bike shops, orchards, event venues, campgrounds, outfitters, and bed and breakfast and hotels. The annual marketing campaign developed by the Tourism Development Authority reaches millions of people each year and the economic impact on Burke County continues to reach monumental levels. And Burke County isn't done yet. A new hotel is under construction, and more hospitality development and growth is anticipated. According to the North Carolina Department of Commerce, in 2017, visitors spent $101 million in Burke County. This is the first time visitor spending has crossed that amazing amount of money.
Wow, so we have a lot going on in Burke County in tourism, and every day it's something else. Before I get into some other numbers here, I just wanted to show everyone too, I did a handout of the March issue of our state magazine, which has the Linville Gorge on the cover. It's actually Table Rock seen from Hawksbill, and in a few weeks we're going to be hosting the editorial staff of our state magazine here, who are going to be here working on a story on Lake James, the Linville Gorge, and a cover for their mountain issue in October. So we're really excited to have them here in a few weeks. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the economy and numbers that you may not or may not be familiar with, but in 2018, we had hotel room demand in Burke County grew at a rate of 6.1%. The average daily rate, or the rate that you would pay for a hotel room in Burke County, grew at 4%. We also have a number that most people aren't aware of, and that's 559 lodging rooms in Burke County. And we also have 110 vacation rentals, and that is growing every day. And we just did the last time we did an analysis of that was back in the fall, and we're currently going through that again to see what new ones have been added. Also, we get a lot of questions. Vacation rentals do collect both the state sales tax and the Burke County occupancy tax. Airbnb and VRBO homes all collect that. Lodging revenue in 2018 was up 10% over 2017. Also in 2017, visitor spending, like we said in here, was $101.28 million. In the comparable sales tax numbers were $682 million for the same period. That tells us that 1 out of every $7 spent in Burke County is spent by a tourist. We have 740 full-time equivalent jobs in Burke County in tourism. You saw on the video, a lot of the faces there smiling that make their daily living out of tourism. So we work hard to get media coverage, to get articles written, hosting media tours, and last year we had more than 30 magazine and newspaper articles that covered Burke County. Hundreds and hundreds of online articles. We have them every day that come out. This year we're hosting a media tour in June, first weekend in June, and also the last weekend of October. And also we're going to be doing market research this year. We're going to find out more about our visitors, where are they from, what brings them here. We're going to do intercept surveys in state parks and other key locations across the county. As visitors come in, we're going to ask them, why are you here? Where are you from? What are you interested in? We are also currently rebuilding our website from square one with more information about our meeting spaces and venues. Last year, more than 50 destination weddings were held in Burke County. That means those people weren't from here. They selected Burke County as a place to get married, probably came here as a visitor first, and then came back to our beautiful county to host their wedding. New hotel rooms are still needed. Some groups and events continue to utilize hotel rooms outside of Burke County during peak demand periods. And we think that's going to be satisfied in the next couple of years. Hopefully this year the downtown hotel will be finished and others are on the drawing boards. I also just wanted to cover briefly some of the media coverage. And the County Quarterly, spring of 2018, which is the county commissioner's publication statewide, wrote an article about the Fauna Flora State Trail. We've also had articles written in Allegiant Airlines, the in-flight magazine, also in October, November. And we also do a tally of what's the most popular subject, the story covered in Burke County each year. And this past year, 2018, it was the Henry River Mill Village. So the revitalization of the Mill Village, the Hunger Games that was filmed there, the movie, was our most popular story in 2018. And so we're proud of that, and we hope to have a great 2019. It's starting off really well. I reported some numbers to Commissioner Mulvey earlier that December was the best December we've ever had in tourism income, in hotel income and occupancy, and January beat that. So it's growing, and we're doing really well in the wintertime. So good news for that.
Great presentation, Ed. Questions for Ed on his presentation?
Mr. Chairman, just for clarity's sake, Ed does a wonderful job. I serve, for full disclosure, I serve on his board, so I get to see this. But tell us, kind of explain to how you capture and create those media tours, because I've seen them be unbelievably successful over the last 3 or 4 years, maybe even longer. How many do you recruit to come in? I think you said you do maybe 2 a year?
So it's varied a little bit, but we have, since 2010, we've conducted 11 media tours. We cap it at 10 journalists so that we can have a small group setting. These journalists come from mostly the East Coast of the United States. We've had a few folks from Texas that attended a media tour in New York. And these are journalists. These are people that make their living writing about travel. And so there's a list. We use a consultant that helps us provide that list of folks that we invite. Every tour has a theme. The theme covers the entire county. It could be history, it could be nature, it could be outdoors, it could be food, it could be craft beverages. It's a lot of different things. And we actually put it together to market what's very unique about Burke County. What do we have that our neighboring counties don't have? What do we have that the rest of North Carolina, even the Southeast, doesn't have? And so we use that to attract them here, and then once they're here, we show them a lot of things about Burke County. One very interesting tidbit, at the end of our tour, it's usually a 2 or 3 day tour with these folks, and at the end of the tour, we always say, what's the sleeper? What was the one thing that you weren't looking forward to, but really surprised you, and you were really excited about it after you saw it? And we ask them that every time, every tour. And the thing that comes up the most was the History Museum of Burke County. And if you haven't been in there, that is a world-class museum. Very interesting. They love it. But you know, these writers have seen every museum under the sun. And so we tell them, oh, we're taking them to another museum. They're like, oh, ho hum, we're not really interested. But then they really love it. And I encourage all Burke County residents and everyone to go see that museum because it really is a first-class attraction. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, good job. Thank you so much, Ed.
Other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, just one. How did you determine, I just noticed the most popular 2018 Burke County story was the Henry River Mill Village. What determined that?
So we have a list. We keep track of a list of every, that we can find, every story that's written out in the world about Burke County. And Google has something called a Google Alert. And you go to Google and you set up this alert. And you can put in, and we have dozens and dozens of terms, Linville Gorge, Morganton, Burke County, Conley Springs, South Mountain State Park, all of these. So literally every day when I come into work, I open my email and I have these alerts and these emails. And so we calculate those emails and look at what the subject is on those emails. And in 2018, the #1 subject that came up was the Henry River Mill Village.
That's great.
Yeah.
I wish them well down there, so that's a good report. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to accept the report. Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. All in favor signify by raising the right hand. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. Thank you, Ed, so very much. Gentlemen, moving on to item number 7 will be our scheduled public hearings. Our first one will be a building reuse grant and local economic development grant for Project Husky, and public hearing presented by Alan Wood from Burke Development, Inc. Alan?
Technology. Thank you for having me here this afternoon, this evening, Commissioners, County Attorney, and Madam Clerk. Appreciate the opportunity. Project Husky, we've been working on approximately 7 months now. And we have gone through every site and building in the county, and my word as of Friday afternoon is they are very close on negotiations to purchase a building and close this out. We are asking for a $500,000 building reuse grant. This I will be presenting in closed session to Hildebrand and asking them to have a public hearing in March to share in this the match that will be required, which is 5% of that $500,000 amount. This company is projecting 50 new jobs over 2 years and 230 new jobs over a 5-year period. The average salary is about $42,000. That is significantly over the county current average of $35,000 per job. We are also asking you to consider a local incentive, which would be 70% grant back of the property tax for a 7-year period. Based on an estimate of $12,500,000 of new capital investment, that would run about $60,812 per year. That is new tax base, so there would be nothing against the existing tax base on this, only new tax base. That number will vary, can vary depending on the investment. Right now, it's just projected on the new equipment. We don't know what the investment in the building might do to the value of it. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Alan. Questions for Alan on this project?
Mr. Chairman, just from an information source, Alan, are you allowed to tell which building that is at this point? You can't, can you? That's a closed session question. Strike the question. Thank you.
Any other questions for Alan? Hearing none, at this time, I'll open a public hearing on the building reuse grant and local economic development grant for Project Husky. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to this project? Hearing no one and seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion from commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion to adopt resolution number 2019-03, approve a $25,000 grant administration contract with the Western Piedmont Council of Government pending the Building Reuse Grant Award. To approve the recommended local economic development grant equivalent to 70% of the taxes paid on the new taxable investment of $12.5 million for 7 years and the creation of 50 new jobs by the end of 2015.
2020?
2020, excuse me.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard a motion by Commissioner Taylor. All in favor signify by raising your right hands. That will be 5-0, Madam Clerk. Thank you so much. Moving on to item number 2 is a building reuse grant project entitled NW and public hearing. Alan Wood.
This is an existing company that is doing an expansion on their current location. They will be adding 25 new jobs starting in 2019. Those will all be in place by the middle of 2020. The approximate capital investment on this is about $2.5 million, plant and equipment. What we're asking for is a building reuse grant. This has gone to the review in the project review with Commerce and EDP&C, and they are proposing that it move forward. The amount of the grant would be $312,500. The local match required of that would be $15,625. I once again will be meeting with the town of Hildebrand next week to ask them in closed session and then ask them to hold a public hearing on this in March to assist with a match on this grant. The average wages will be above the county average, and they will cover at least 1/2 of the health care cost of these new of all their employees. And so we are projecting that this one would go through and be heard in the April cycle by the Rural Infrastructure or the Rural Development Authority.
All right, thank you, Alan. Questions for Alan on project NW? Hearing no questions, I will now open a public hearing. Is there anyone here that would like to speak concerning the project NW, the building reuse grant? Hearing no one and seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion from the commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt resolution number 2019-02 and approve a grant administration contract with the Western Piedmont Council of Governments pending a building reuse grant award for Project NW.
All right, gentlemen, you heard Commissioner Britton's motion. All in favor signify by raising your right hands. That'll be 5-0, Madam Clerk. Thank you so much. Moving on to item number 3 is an Industrial Development Fund resolution regarding the Burke Business Park in public hearing. Alan?
This would be a grant from the IDF funds, Industrial Development Fund. This money is derived from the JDIG Job Development Investment Grants that are approved across the state. The amount of the grant, approximately $1.9 million, is to help us offset the cost of a 500,000 gallon water tank for our business park. The projected amount of the build is $2,573,000. There is a 25% match required on this grant. There is $228,000 approximately currently at BDI, which was established to cover expenses at the business park. What we would do is to use that money as the first part of the match to help us get going. The other portion, the exact amount of the match, depending on what I'm able to do on the, and I'm working on this still and I don't have the answers yet, I apologize, but I just don't have them back. So the match would be between $265,000, $250,000 and $415,250 based on the 2.57 or the $2,573,000 projected cost of this tank. Once we have discussed this, what the reason for the need for the tank is there is water to the park. There is just not sufficient volume to sprinkle the buildings that we project would be there, and you're not going to be able to build industrial buildings without the sprinkler system. And this tank would cover the total amount of build out that would be projected for that park. Just to give you a little bit of update on, my best estimate is that you can build about 1 million square feet of industrial buildings at that park.
All right, thank you, Alan. Questions for Alan on the IDF resolution?
Mr. Chairman, I have one request. Alan, and we don't need it tonight, but at some point I would like to have the total investment into that property to this point. And a bit of good news, maybe a little bit better good news for Wayne and Maynard than the other three, but because we were here when this started. And folks, one more year, 2020, the debt is paid, entirely paid on that contract. So, Wayne, it's a crying shame we don't have somebody in that park, but we hope this last move really gets us going on that park, and that's kind of what we're counting on. Thank you, Alan.
I will get that information and get it back to you.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll open a public hearing and ask if there was anyone here that would like to speak to the Industrial Development Fund resolution. Hearing no one and seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion from the commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt resolution number 2019-04 and authorize the chairman to execute the full grant application and any other related grant documentation.
You've heard the motion, Commissioner Mulvey. All in favor signify by raising your right hands. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0.
Thank y'all for your
Thank you,
consideration
Alan.
this evening.
Moving on to item number 8, informal public comments. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to speak tonight?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have a few folks. I would call first Mr. Bryant Lindsay.
As you move to the podium tonight, if you would, please state your name and address for the public record and for the stream that is feeding of this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Bryant Lindsay. I live at 113 Rockview Lane here in Morganton. And if I may, I would like to approach and give you a little handout, which I think will be helpful to you.
Please approach.
Okay, and these are ones for folks who need to look at an MOU right now. It turns out that, Mr. Chairman, that you're under a bit, as all of us are, a bit of a deadline that we were unaware of. We became aware of this only recently when the National Park Service came back from their enforced shutdown. And that's why I'm bringing this to you tonight. You all are familiar with operating under an MOU in terms of the previous planning that you led the way in terms of getting Over Mountain Victory Trail plan for Lenore into Morganton and also from Lake James into Morganton. The pattern is that the National Park Service makes available $60,000, but they need to have it matched by affected municipalities and counties with $40,000. And we became aware, well, first of all, we weren't taking the lead in this because they were asking, the county of Mitchell and McDowell to take the lead on raising $40,000 for a $60,000 match. And what the good folks found out up in Mitchell and in McDowell was when the National Park Service came back from the shutdown that if the match money was not lined up in its entirety by the end of February, that the $60,000 would go away and maybe never come back again. And so I was not able, I was not a part of the committee, necessarily that got this information. And I don't think, for example, that your attendees at the original conference that was convened up in Spruce Pine were made aware of this either. I remember that Shane Prisby was able to come to that meeting, but I don't think the word that I'm bringing to you tonight got to Shane at that point, or indeed had gotten to Shane until just a few days ago. So I'm bringing that information to you. I'm not sure exactly how to move ahead at this point. I can tell you that we managed to go to the McDowell County Commissioners the other night, and they were able to move quickly on it, and so they have committed $5,000 to be in the MOU, and Mitchell County, with their little 18,000 people, they've committed $5,000, and the town of Spruce Pine has committed $5,000. I'm not asking you for anything tonight. I know that would be out of order. This is merely public comment, and I just wanted to bring this to you. And Mr. Manager, I apologize that I couldn't get this to you sooner, but if I may lobby you, between now and the end of February, I have a feeling that this county can come up with an appropriate response. And thank you very much. And I made my schedule, didn't I? Thank you very much, Kay.
Thank you, Brian. Madam Clerk?
Miss Carla Wallace.
Good afternoon. I'm Carla Wallace, and I'm with Partners for Cats and Burke County Animal Welfare Alliance. I'm also a concerned citizen. I'm here to speak with you about Mabel. Mabel was a beautiful 14-year-old long-haired calico cat who had an adopter who was one of our group waiting for her. She was surrendered to be euthanized by the family. We suspect the owner had died. We researched and found that in cases like this, the animals did not have to be euthanized, as the owner had requested, that this decision was left up to animal control. Since this cat was healthy and appeared tame, she met the criteria for adoption, not euthanasia. I saw Mabel on 3 different occasions. She was always calm and appeared tame. She was never aggressive. I'll turn it off. It was after that Lieutenant Massey, the Director of Animal Control, approached me with a video of Mabel. She was acting like a wild, tormented cat. If I had not known it was her, I would have never thought it was the same cat. She was hissing, growling, and totally freaking out. She did not act like the same calm, demeanored animal that I saw on multiple occasions. I just cannot fathom what would cause her to act the way she did in the video. It broke my heart seeing it, and I will never know why, because she was declared aggressive and was killed. God rest Mabel's poor soul. This and other situations like this are what we are battling right now. And we do have, I think, someone else here to speak on another animal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Madam Clerk?
Gwen Hood. Megan Bradley.
Good evening. My name is Megan Bradley. I live at 1979 US 70 East in Morganton. I am a volunteer and foster with Hartman's Haven out of Conover. I do a lot of coordination in the Burke County for the in the Burke County area for the rescue, and I'm also a resident of Burke County. I'm speaking before you tonight to draw awareness to issues that we're facing with Burke County Animal Control and also to seek guidance to navigate through these issues. The most recent issue that we are having is that we cannot pull animals from animal control that have been deemed unadoptable, mostly due to aggression. I understand that this issue is a liability. However, when an animal is signed over to a rescue, the liability is removed from animal control. At least that is in other counties. In other counties, an animal that has been deemed unadoptable due to aggression is usually listed as rescue only. However, in Burke County, that is not the case. In our county, any animal that has been deemed unadoptable due to aggression is euthanized at the end of the day. It is important to remember that when these animals are coming into animal control, they have been taken from the environment that they are used to, that they feel safe in, or one that they can escape at the very least. They've often been dropped off by the people that they trust, and they're now in a cell surrounded by other animals that they don't know, and people that they are not familiar with are coming in and out, and they're not staying to reassure them. I can't say that I would act too kindly if I were put in the same situation, but that doesn't mean that I should be killed, does it? So oftentimes these animals they're not truly aggressive. They're scared, they're confused, they're uncomfortable. They have no way to communicate these things or ask what's going on, and the officers don't have the time to go in and work with them like the rescues do. We have the time and we have the resources to work with these animals. If we were allowed to pull, we could do so. Hartman's Haven Dog Rescue has been working with animal shelters in Alexander, Iredell, Catawba, and Caldwell counties for the last 10 years. We are able to pull these animals that have been deemed unadoptable due to aggression. If we were allowed to pull these animals that were deemed aggressive or unadoptable, we could have saved 4 lives in the past 2 months. If our surrounding counties can work together to achieve these goals, then so can we. We need change, and we need to see it here in this county. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Bradley. Madam Clerk?
Miss Joy Harkleroad.
Good evening. My name is Joy Harkleroad. I'm with Mercy, and I live in Marion. I'm here to talk for Amy McGempsey, who is a Burke County resident and has to work tonight. She is a member of Burke County Animal Welfare Alliance and a volunteer for Rusty's Legacy. She too does the coordination for Burke County for Rusty's Legacy. Charlie came to Burke County Animal Control during Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. He was not there on a Saturday, but was first seen when Animal Control opened back up on Tuesday, January the 22nd, 2019. Charlie was a little Chihuahua mix, around 20 pounds, and he was overlooked due to his shyness. He was in run 5 with a smaller Chihuahua. On Saturday the 26th, Charlie was still at Animal Control, and I became worried about him getting out. I called to him, and he came up to the fence to sniff my fingers. He was afraid, but in no way aggressive towards me. That began a journey to get Charlie out. My rescue, Rusty's Legacy, was not yet approved. My plan was to pull Charlie on Monday the 28th. The owner of Rusty's Legacy had submitted the application, and on Monday we had heard nothing. Rusty's Legacy, the owner of Jerry Arledge, the owner of Rusty's Legacy, called Animal Control and was told that she had not submitted all the required paperwork, so we were not approved. She then decided to adopt Charlie herself. So I called Animal Control, and on my way asked if he was available for adoption, and I was told yes. I responded that I was on my way. I arrived at Animal Control, money in hand, to adopt Charlie. Nicole McCombs and Lieutenant Massey were standing there waiting on me and told me that Charlie was unadoptable. I asked why, and Lieutenant Massey informed me that he gloved up and went into the kennel, and that Charlie came towards him in an aggressive manner. He never once said that Charlie had bitten him or attempted to bite him. A big man in a run with the big gloves on going towards a little scared dog can be very frightening, and it must have been for Charlie. I was devastated that I couldn't adopt him. I contacted Mercy Animal Rescue because they were approved to pull and agreed to pull Charlie. Most animal controls have a rescue-only status for dogs like Charlie. Joy, the owner of Mercy, was told that Charlie was not available and she couldn't rescue him. Charlie had been at Animal Control for 10 days. His last day was coming up, and Joy begged to have a professional evaluation done on Charlie. An answer was not given to her. Little Charlie died in Animal Control that same afternoon. The day that so many tried to save him, he was euthanized. My heart was crushed, and Charlie deserved more than he had gotten there. Charlie did not have to die. Rusty's Legacy was approved to pull 2 days later. She also wrote something else, but I'm running out of time, about a German Shepherd that she went to pull, and she was standing in there. The foster-based rescues are not allowed to go in the area, but she was there and had requested to pull the German Shepherd, had talked with the inmate and the people in the front, however she had to go. Burke Friends for Animals, she said, came through the back door and loaded the dog up and left. And she said that all rescues should be treated the same, and that clearly favoritism was being shown to one group over the other. And thank you for hearing her comments. We're trying to come to you and get on the agenda to offer you some solutions that we're working on, which is an amendment called Charlie's Law that we will be able to put before you. That's an amendment that maybe you could put into your ordinance that will allow an animal that has been deemed unadoptable the option for rescue-only pull, or that they can have a professional individual evaluation prior to being euthanized. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy.
Those are all the cards I have.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to item number 9 on our agenda is the consent agenda. At this time, I'll introduce Brian Steen, County Manager, for his review of that agenda. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. You have 12 items on your consent agenda. Number 1, Clerk, Animal Advisory Board, removal. Item 2, Clerk appointment to Blue Ridge Community Action. Item 3, Clerk, Library Board of Trustees reappointments. Item 4, Clerk appointments to the Council on Aging. Item 5, Clerk appointment to Regional Aging Advisory Committee. Item 6, Community Development accept North Bend easements from Duke Energy. Item 7, Fire Marshal appointments to the Local Emergency Planning Committee. Item 8, Fire Marshal contract for fire protection services for George Hildebrand Fire and Rescue Department Incorporated. Item 9, mental health, resolution in support of Partners Behavioral Health Management as our county's choice for LME/MCO. Item 10, Tax Department Tax Collection Report for January 2019. Item 11, Tax Department Release Refund Report for January 2019. And item 12, Tax Department Order to Advertise 2018 Delinquent Real Property Taxes. That concludes your consent agenda.
Thank you, Brian. Gentlemen, you've heard the report from Brian and his review. We'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we approve all 12 items as presented of the consent agenda.
Gentlemen, you heard the motion by Commissioner Taylor. All in favor signify by raising the right hand. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. Thank you so much. Moving on to item number 10 is items for decision. Presentation of the fiscal year 18 audit presented by Phil Church from Loudermilk Church, along with our finance officer, Margaret. Are you going to be there, or just Phil and Rick? Phil and Rick, okay. Good evening, gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, good to be with you again. See, our report's about 100.
Phil, if you would pull that a little bit closer
Sorry.
to you.
Let me get over here.
It's heavy.
Our report's about 125 pages long. I figured it'll take about 3 hours.
Okay, sir.
No, really, it would take quite a long time to go through all of it. It's a complicated report, very complicated report. But you have our highlights, which from last time, we made a couple of brief changes. But as I told you last time, can you still not hear it? Can you still not hear me? As I told you last time, we did give you a clean, unmodified opinion, and the LGC has approved the report. So we made a couple of changes. Do you want us to go through the numbers again, all of these highlights, or you want us to just tell you the changes that we made in the highlights? They were very simple, but we can do either.
You can give us the simple highlights.
Okay, good. Okay, Rick, if you'll go over those highlights, the changes we made, it mostly refers or is about fund balance, okay?
Yeah, the first change, or on the first page we made, was the third line down, unassigned fund balance. The previous highlights had shown the total fund balance available in the general fund of approximately $23 million. The actual unassigned fund balance at June 30 that shows on page 16 of the audit report was $15,224,971. So that's the actual available fund balance at June 30 in the operating fund. All the other amounts on the first page were the ones that we went over in the previous meeting. On the second page, we changed some numbers here also. Again, the first number, unassigned fund balance for 2018 was $15,224,971. The expenditures and other financing sources and uses was just over $81 million. So your unassigned fund balance percentage at the end of June was 18.79%. You can see the state average for counties your size, your population group was 35.86%. Just to give you an idea how you compare. Again, LGC requires a minimum of 8%, which is basically 1 month of your operating expenditures for your general fund. So you're just about little over 2 months of fund balance or operating expenditures available.
Okay, gentlemen, questions for Phil or Rick regarding their report?
Mr. Chairman, I have several. The first one I wanted to ask, and maybe you said it and I didn't catch it. You said it was revised. How did you revise the report?
I didn't revise the report, I just revised the highlight sheet.
You what?
I just revised the highlight sheet. Those
Okay.
are the amounts I just went over were the changes.
The first time we were showing total fund balance, and the question came up about what is unassigned or what's really available. So that's the 15 million that's unassigned.
Okay. Well, my first real question is on page 3. It states, next to the last sentence, Tourism Development Authority. We're not audited in accordance with the government's auditing standards. Are we in compliance now?
Yes, well, it's
They're
not,
not
they're not required to be audited in accordance with the government auditing standards.
They're not required?
Tourism Development Authority audit is not required to be audited in government accounting standards. You are audited under government accounting standards, the county. They're just a component unit of the county.
Okay. Next, page 4. Under opinions, you made a statement, general fund and the school 1 cent sales tax. There's a 1 cent sales tax and a half-cent sales tax. And the half was not included in that, and there are two different entities for them to have that. Is that half-cent not supposed to be in this budget?
But it is in the budget. It's not a major fund. There are certain funds that are considered major funds for the county. It's the school 1 cent sales tax fund is a major fund, and the general fund, of course, is a major fund. They're reported up in the front part of the report. The other fund that you're talking about, the half-cent sales tax, it's included in this report. It's just not a major fund, and it's not required to be listed in the opinion.
It's in here, but it's not singled out.
Exactly.
Not in this opinion, not in this opinion paragraph, it's not singled out. There is a schedule in the back that talks about 1 cent sales tax, or half-cent sales tax fund.
Yeah, that's a major fund. If you look at, let me see, what pages? There's several non-major funds starts on page 85. And then there's the major funds, which is the 1 cent sales tax fund, and the grants project fund, which are major funds, which have to be stated in the opinion, because they are. It's a calculation you have to go through to determine whether they're major or non-major.
Yeah.
General fund's always major.
Okay, page 9, I believe, is next. Under the long-term liability, that's your, I guess, third group down. And you're looking at 28.9 million more in 2018 than in 2017. I'm assuming, but it's not nice to assume, so I'm assuming that's the new school debt and a couple other things, or?
Debt for
The jail.
the jail debt.
And the jail,
And the jail,
yes,
both of them?
No, just the jail.
the jail.
The school debt was on there last year.
Okay,
The jail debt was added this year.
all right. Number 10. The governmental activity, no, that's not the one, excuse me. The total is what I was looking at. And in 17, you had 51, and in 18, it's down to 32.
Which number?
That's $18,847 less.
Which line are you looking at?
From the net position, it's the last line of net.
Net position, right, 51 million went down to 32. That decrease, if you look above, about 2 lines above that, it says restatement. You can see for 2018, the restatement was $13,532,965. GASB 75, which is how you account for your OPEB benefits, your post-employment retirement or your post-employment benefits. There was a change in the accounting method of how those were accounted for, so that caused a $13,000 decrease in your, or 13 million, sorry, in your net assets for the year?
These numbers are based on full accrual basis. It's called a net position. In other words, all your debts put on the books, your fixed assets are put on the books. It's full accrual, it's like a business, whereas you budget on a modified accrual basis, which is the way we gave you your highlights. To me, it's a little more understandable.
I had 3 questions on the pension. When I read your background, I answered my 3 questions, so we'll get to skip those 3. On page 63, I believe it is. And the question I have down, and I think you've already answered it in my other question, and that was, is the new school debt included in those figures?
Yeah, the school debt is included in there, but it was also on last year's.
Yeah. So next year, we'll obviously add the jail expense to that, I guess. Is there a way to, I guess it get too cumbersome, just forget, I started to say, is there a way to identify what they are, what all the indebtedness is, but,
Well, there are on page 62, there's some identification of what some of these debts are, like 20 million, 10,000 limited obligation bonds. That was for the jail. That was for the jail.
89 is my next question, page 89. And that's a simple question, I think. Smoky Creek, North Catawba balance is $6,728 that they did not spend. Does that carry over into their budget for this year? What happens to that fund?
They actually, if you look on page 88, they also were under budget on their revenue portion of that by 6728. I don't know. I can't answer the question about whether it carries over or not.
Maybe Margaret knows.
That's a pass-through fund, so it would not carry forward. Those are pass-through tax dollars. They do not carry forward. Your revenue would always just be the money whatever we take in for their property taxes, for their fire tax, we send to them. So it's just slightly off on what was estimated.
Okay, let me make sure what you're telling me. Because they have a fire tax and that money is collected to go to them.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you put it somewhere else, then you're taking away from what it was designated to. And what you just said was that, no, that's a pass-through, and if it was not spent, it comes back into the county's fund?
Exactly what we collected for that fire tax is sent to them. This is just where the budget was estimated a little bit higher than what the property taxes were collected. So we collected the $22,086 in property tax. It's just that the budgeted amount was 28, but what we collected was 22 and what we gave them was 22.
So how did we get that 6728 off the books?
It's just, the budget was just estimated slightly high. There could have been a collection variation there, or it could just be that the number that Paul estimated for it was just a little bit higher than we were able to collect.
Well, I guess my question is, are we gonna have that 6728 on our books again next year in that category?
No, sir.
No.
No. Okay. Yeah, the final question, and I've asked this about every budget thing, and the reason I ask this question is this money came from settling a lawsuit, and it's an annual amount, and it comes from a lottery fund, and I don't see where it is listed as revenue
The
in the
school
book.
board lottery money?
Yeah. And and then we don't, we don't see, I don't see where we expense that particular amount. I'm assuming it goes into our, just our tax fund. But
Exactly what it is.
Hold on, it's in here.
Yeah, I know it's in here, I remember.
It's actually used for, pay debt, school board debt.
Like I said, it would take 2 or 3 hours to go through all of this.
Pardon?
It would take 2 or 3 hours to go through all of this. It's,
If you look on
it's in here somewhere.
page 93,
well, you can, the point to this is that I, you know, from my position, I think, the board, as far as that goes, needs to know that that is
Sure.
being honored. And secondly, where are we spending that money?
school board lottery money.
You know,
Yeah,
And-
it comes in the school 1 cent sales tax fund, and then it is transferred to the general fund to pay debt that the school board has, or that you've incurred to build schools. It's always been used that way.
now repeat that, please.
The money comes in the school, it comes in the school 1 cent sales tax fund when it's drawn down. Then it is transferred to the general fund to use to pay down debt that the county incurred for for building schools.
But that's different than different than the lottery money.
I mean, this is the lottery school capital funds. Is that what you're talking about?
No. No. We know we're passed through for the sales tax of 1% and the half. Okay. I don't see a ledger for the lottery fund reimbursement.
Well, that's what I said. If you look at page 93.
It's on page
Page
90.
what?
Page 93.
It's 93.
The second number down on page 93, under actual, 1,695,000. That's the lottery school capital funds.
Just a minute, Rick.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. So looking at that number, are you telling me the lottery funds was 1695, 1,695,000?
Yes, that was what was collected, or that was what was drawn down by the county in 2018. Now, I don't think, and Margaret can correct me if I'm wrong, I think that was usually drawn down about every 2 years. So you're talking about $800,000 a year or so. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I was motioning to her.
Yes, I believe that's been the practice at Burke, is to pull it down every other year. Your lottery funds are approximately $880,000, $890,000 a year. And so in this case, that's 2 years' worth.
That's 2 years.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. You don't need to know, but I am going to have a telephone conversation with Mrs. Pierce, and there may be a reason that we can gain some benefit from that we don't know yet, and that's the reason it's a little bit curious to me to where it is and how we distribute it, et cetera, et cetera. But I appreciate it. I think that's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, if you have a question later, just give us a call. We'll be glad to try to answer it.
Other questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion. You've heard the motion from Commissioner Taylor. All in favor, signify by uplifting of the right hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. Thank you, gentlemen, so very much. Appreciate it.
Turn it off.
Moving on to item number 11, our reports and comments. Our first report is General Services. Report on the Water Department activities presented by Miles Champion, our General Services Director. Miles?
Good evening, folks. Would like to just update you on our water meter replacements and utility billing. Burke County Water and Sewer Department began water meter replacements in June of last year. At the same time, we started to implement a utility billing system that was brand new. Burke County water meters are normally radio read using a laptop computer and specialized software. A utility technician drives along the water meter route, and the laptop electronically collects the water meter data for each customer. Approximately 8 months ago, staff noted a significant increase in the number of meters that were not sending a radio signal to the utility technician's laptop. This resulted in an initiative to replace water meter registers due to the batteries prematurely dying and therefore not generating automatic radio reads for billing purposes. The manufacturer of the radio read registers, Master Meter, identified 1,550 of approximately 2,024 registers that had defective components, resulting in reduced battery life for the registers. By October, approximately 66% of all the water meter registers would not radio read. General Services staff had been working diligently to replace all 1,550 registers so that all meters can radio read. It is necessary to have all the meters reading in order to have an accurate number for customers' billing purposes. To date, over 1,000 meter registers have been replaced. Since June, staff have used a combination of manually reading meters as well as estimating. Because of the meter failures, the need to read manually each month turned into that would normally take a three-day tour would be a multi-week task. Along with meter register replacements, the department implemented a new utility billing software system which generated some additional problems related to data conversion, account accuracy, and meter consumption data. As a result, some water meters that were sent to customers over the past seven months were not accurate. Staff have worked diligently to resolve all the issues and correct water bills as necessary. We anticipate that both the water meter replacement project and the billing software implementation will be substantially complete in 30 to 60 days. We appreciate our customers' patience during this period and encourage them to contact our Burke County Water and Sewer Department at 828-764-9063 or 764-9064 if they have any questions about their bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miles. Questions for Miles?
Miles, two quick, short questions. The first one is the life expectancy of the new meters any better than the ones that you're taking out?
Yes, it's the same life expectancy, which is they have a 10-year warranty on them. Some may last longer, some shorter, but it's a 10-year warranty. So it's the same meter and the same meter company.
That created another question. Do we have warranty on these we're taking out?
We have what?
Warranty. Are we getting paid for these that we're taking out that didn't last 10 years?
They are replacing those at no cost for the meter. We have to provide the labor to replace those.
If we have to do this was the second original question. If we have to replace those every year, every 10 years, should we be looking at putting aside some money every year for replacement on that?
Yes, sir.
You should.
Sure.
Any idea how much that is? Excuse me, Chairman, that's the fourth question. Any idea how much?
I think we're in the vicinity of $20,000 to $30,000 a year.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept this report as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. All in favor signify by raising your right hands. 5-0, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Miles. Moving on, item number 2 is the 2019 reappraisal report presented by Danny Eisenhower, our tax administrator. Danny?
Good evening, gentlemen. As everybody knows, we've been working on the reappraisal for the last year plus. North Carolina General Statute 105-286 requires that counties conduct a general reappraisal projects at least every 8 years. Values become effective January 1st of the reappraisal year. Burke County has conducted these reappraisals in 1971, 79, 87, 94, 2001, 2007, and 2013. Of these years, we have conducted the 94, the 2001, 2007, and 2013 using our in-house staff with very little outside assistance. The last reappraisal became effective January 1st, 2013. The next one was scheduled for January 1st, 2017, but in 2015 I came to the board and requested that the reappraisal be postponed for either 2 or 4 years due to economic reasons. At that time, if we'd have had a reappraisal, we would have went up plus or minus 2%. This was approved at the October 20th, 2015 Board of Commissioners meeting. A resolution was passed postponing the reappraisal until January 1, 2019 and rescheduling future reappraisals on a 4-year cycle. The goal of a reappraisal is to value all properties within a county at market value along with being fair and equitable. To accomplish this requires maintaining correct data, reviewing sales, and applying the schedule of values properly. Staff are consistently conducting these on-site reviews of property to check the data for accuracy and to make necessary changes. They follow up on all building permits, property transfers, sales, and exemption applications. We do this because the data is the backbone of our property value. It must be correct. The attached worksheet is a comparison between 2018 values, what we billed for back in July, and the 2019 reappraisal values. The first group is the total market value, which is all real property, including exempts. So this value looks very large, and it is, but you have to remember we've got over $1 billion in tax exempt. That's county, federal, state, local government properties. The second is the taxable value. From these totals, the veterans exemption and the age exemption will be excluded. So those will not be finalized until June. In brief, this report reflects an overall value increase of around $374 million or 7.2% for Burke County. Each municipality and fire districts are also listed. Staff up through today are still reviewing the market areas. The reappraisal notices are scheduled to be mailed the last of February. Right now it's February 28th. It could be delayed a day depending on the weather tomorrow. Property owners will receive a notice for each property they own. Notices are mailed and the new values will be available on public web access. The notices have the property ownership, the property identification, the new value. They state that if the property owner believes the values is correct, then there's nothing more to do. If the property owner wishes to appeal, the procedure is described. Staff will conduct on-site reviews for any appeal that's filed. A second notice will then be sent with the results of this review. The value will either increase, decrease, or remain the same. And there are several appeal processes, several steps in this. We call the first step the informal appeal process. If they don't like that, they can go on to the Board of Equalization Review and then on up to state levels. I'll be glad to answer any questions or expand.
Thank you, Danny. Questions for Danny on his report?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one, and I don't, on page 455, Danny, you make a statement there, they do this because data is the backbone of property value. It must be correct. My question on that statement would be, how is your staff ensuring that information and data is correct? And what kind of method and system are you using to make sure that there are as fewer errors as at all possible in that report?
Staff goes out, and the only data that we can tell you 100% is correct are ones that we've actually looked at. So we go out and they measure and list each component of a house. You've got the living area, the basements, the decks, the porches. All of those components are listed in the schedule of values with a value that attaches per square foot or other unit of measure. They're measuring all those components, come back, put them on the property record card. That's what we know is correct. I think I'm answering your question.
Well, do you know how many times when you type in you can hit the wrong data, the wrong number, the wrong letter?
Well,
And when I read that, that's what went through my mind. How, do you have a proofreader standing behind somebody when they putting that in? Or how are you ensuring that information is absolutely correct?
okay, as the appraiser goes out there, he measures and lists, and he writes that on his paper. Assuming he doesn't make an error there, and I'll say they're pretty accurate. Then once that information is input, it goes back to him to review, make sure he put the right information in, and it also goes to a second step to a supervisor to look at. Yeah, you can always misinterpret your own writing, but when you look at a house and you measure around the house, and let's just easy numbers, let's say it's 28 feet deep and it's 50 feet across, well, you know it's got to be 28 on the other side and 50 feet across the front. So there's a lot of balances. And I'll be glad to sit down with you and walk through it.
I just say Godspeed to your trip, because that, I can't imagine how many millions of dots and datas of information you got to put in to do this. It just kind of struck me as, wonder how he's ensuring all that data is correct, since it has to be correct.
It is. I mean, you go out there and you have, if somebody's, what we're ensuring is correct, that house is not 50 feet long and we got it at 40.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept this report as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Moe. All in favor signify by raising the right hands. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. Thank you, Danny. Moving on to item number 3, Fund Finances, our county financial report for the period ending December the 31st, 2018, presented by Margaret Pierce, our Deputy County Manager, Finance Director. Margaret?
You have the report in your packet that was presented to you at pre-agenda. There have been no changes to it. Everything is running on target where it should be, revenues and expenditures at this point in time overall. Any questions?
Questions for Margaret? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the report as presented. Thank you, Commissioner Abley. All in favor, raise your right hands. Madam Clerk, that'll be 5-0. Moving on to item number 4, County Manager, 2018 Summary of Accomplishments. Brian?
Let me just get the clicker.
One clicker on its way.
Yeah, we're going a little bit long here, so I'm gonna be a little quick.
Okay.
Thank you. Well. There we go. This is BDI. We've got at least 3 projects: Zero Delta and Rutherford College, a $34 million investment and 151 new full-time jobs. Jackson Corrugated in Morganton, $11.5 million investment and 42 new full-time jobs. And 3S Vortex in Morganton with 15 new full-time jobs. Also, the Industrial Commons was awarded a $1 million grant to support workers and businesses in western North Carolina that was beneficial to us. When we go over to community development, the Fauna Flora State Trail, 9 miles of new trail has been installed. constructed 5 new bridges. We were awarded a $400,000 STBGA DA grant for the Linville Dam Boardwalk and Trails. You've had 1.5 miles trail and park area easements donated by Enclave at Lake James Development. Assisted North Carolina Parks with acquiring 87 acres of land valued at $747,879 for the Fontaflora State Trail to be added to the Lake James State Park. We go over to cooperative extension. Burke County 4-H provided embryology programming to 28 Burke County school classrooms, reaching approximately 644 youth, over 30 educators. We go over to emergency communications. Completed and passed the first PSAP peer review with no deficiencies. They relocated the backup PSAP. They participated in and provided communication support for the North Carolina State Hurricane Exercise, Western North Carolina, SAR exercise, and the Hurricane Florence EOC activation. They also sent personnel to the state EOC to assist with recovery efforts following Hurricane Florence. They answered 45,317 emergency calls, as well as 108,765 administrative calls. Emergency medical services were awarded the American Heart Association Mission Lifeline EMS Gold Plus Achievement Award for continued excellent care in STEM management. This is the highest level of achievement awarded. You go over to the Fire Marshal's office. They managed the 2018 Western North Carolina Search and Rescue Exercise held in Linville Gorge. They worked with the North Carolina Emergency Management Search and Rescue Division to renew Burke County Swiftwater Rescue Team, a status Type 1 team. They were also involved with the Swiftwater Rescue Exercise, or changed it into a statewide exercise, which will bring in teams from across the state to participate. That'll be occurring this March and early April. And they constructed a new emergency management storage building out at Marsh Trail, and opened the Emergency Operations Center during Hurricane Florence to better respond to the storm and ensure the safety of Burke County citizens. In general services, they opened a new cell at the C&D landfill, installed new easy-to-read directional signs at the C&D landfill, and by utilizing state funds, a new mercury recycling building was installed at the transfer station. Health Department Primary Care went full-time on July 1st, 2018, providing services Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and has seen over 300 individuals. They hosted 2 community forums. One was substance use and workplace, and over 200 members of the community were in attendance. Burke County received a $500,000 grant to implement the Burke County Recovery Court, which began January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2023. And human resources, Burke County Employee Health Clinic negotiated extended hours and new location to better serve Burke County employees, retirees, and dependents covered by the county's group health insurance plan. They also implementation of the Employee Assistance Program to assist our employees that are in stressful situations or had such things as being out on the site when there have been severe injuries to people, or our 911 staff when they've encountered some very difficult calls. But that's been a help to us. The library implemented a $24,000 grant from the State Library of North Carolina for a mobile computing lab maker space at C.B. Hildebrand Public Library. The library increased total annual operation hours by 260 hours from 8,736 to 8,996. The library staff conducted 1,308 programs during the year with attendance of almost 30,000 patrons. They also partnered with Coma to offer several programs, including the Wine About a Book, book discussion group, special showing of Still Magnolias, and a murder mystery diner theater. Parks and Recreation completed new parking lot at Simpson Park, completed the concrete and sod work at Reap Park, as well as dugouts, bleacher pads, and walkways. They also successfully hosted a statewide water school at the Foothills Higher Education Center and had approximately 650 participants attend the 2-week school. Register of Deeds' first annual Customer Appreciation Day was held on September 27th, 2018. Event was sponsored by our local government credit union. They've also shredded over 2,200 pounds of personal paper for the community for free. Partnered with our software company to develop an electronic tax portal. This portal allows our office to electronically send deeds to the Burke County Tax Office to obtain a tax certification stamp that is required before recording. Their office was also selected as a pilot program to go paperless for vital records requests. And this year they held a benefit and resource fair in appreciation of our veterans. The Senior Center, seniors at Burke Senior Center participated in the statewide advocacy event to secure funding in the 2019 federal budget for senior-related programs. Seniors also voiced concerns regarding state programming and funding, provided input, and voted on 17 proposed resolutions for 2019 that affect senior adults. Veteran Services provides Memorial Day and Veterans Day program for all Burke County veterans and their families. The event averages over 250 participants. The Sheriff's Department deployed Narcan for deputies on April 24th, 2018. And thus far, 4 persons have been saved using Narcan. They also were involved in the implementation of LEAD, Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program, offering qualified persons a path to treatment rather than criminal prosecution. They added 3 school resource officers, and Burke County Detention Officer Kincaid was selected by the North Carolina Jail Administrators Association as the state's North Carolina Jailer of the Year. Social Services, Food and Nutritional Services had a bi-year management evaluation audit, and there were no findings. They subsidized child care, was monitored and received a 97% compliance score. No corrective action is required. No cases were found to be completely ineligible. They have a number of other things there you can look at if you like. Soil and Water was allocated $190,151 from the state to implement best management practices on local farms and urban lands. And there are other accomplishments here, such as the Burke Soil and Water Conservation District presented conservation education programs to all 15 elementary schools, all 5 middle schools, and 4 high schools in Burke County, reaching the majority of our young adults and educating them on conservation of our natural resources. Our final area is the Board of Commissioners. You had a grand opening of EMS Space 6 on April 20th, 2018. You participated in the Youth and Government Day. We also had an article about Burke County, and the Fonda Flora State Trail was featured in the County Quarterly. And Burke County also joined a lawsuit bringing litigation against opioid manufacturers and distributors. And Burke County Jail construction has been continuing, and as of December 31st, 2018, the jail is approximately 60% complete. And we'll finish up with the board secured and approved approximately $24 million in funding for the new Mountain View Elementary School, which is now complete. Pretty good year, gentlemen. Good job.
All right. Questions for Brian on his report? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. All in favor, signify by raising of the right hand. Be 5-0, Madam Clerk. We'll now move on to our reports and comments, starting with County Attorney.
Mr. Chairman, just wanted to mention to you that I had attended the County Attorney's Winter Conference earlier in February. We had that at the Institute of Government, and as always, their staff was very thorough, and the camaraderie we shared among attorneys who represent counties was also a good thing. And we learned about cyber crime on the county level and a lot of other decent things.
All right, Commissioner Abley.
No comment, thank you.
Commissioner Taylor.
Mr. Chairman, in addition to the reports that you received through the computer, I did want to report that Rebecca McLeod and I took the tour of the Friends for Animals. Alan Keller was our tour guide, and they have made many, many improvements. I was surprised that the rules for animal shelters were more strict than your hospital. And I guess part of that is that humans can somewhat take care of themselves and animals can't. But the big thing was that every piece of equipment in there has to be stainless steel from the floor up. That cannot be wood cabinetry or anything like this. They have added new equipment, epoxy on the floor, new LED light fixtures, installed new stainless steel cabinets from the floor up. He stated that his budget was $22,000 per month. I was impressed with what I saw, and it was exceptionally clean. I also want to comment on number 6 of your consent agenda, the George Hildebrand Fire Department. When I addressed this with the clerk on Monday, my intentions were to ask for that to be removed and vote on it next month, but that was not fair. George Hildebrand Fire Department is not out of compliance. This board is out of compliance that we have not voted and accepted the reports. If we don't comply with item 6, then there's no need for item number 7. And furthermore, every time we disregard our own rules and fail to follow procedure, we compromise the integrity of the entire board. Each one of us just agreed in January, February, Madam Clerk, I don't know which month it was, but we signed and agreed on a resolution adopting a code of ethics for commissioners. I support the contract for George Hildebrand Fire Department. They're not asking for any changes. The rate is the same. They are not out of compliance. And I would recommend to this board that as soon as feasibly possible that we get in compliance with our rules and accept their audit. And as a matter of fact, on tonight's meeting, we have done that with 9 entities. We have listened to the report and voted and accepted the report. And that's what you do with the fire department contract. And I believe that's all I have to say.
Brian, you got anything else?
No, sir.
Vice Chair Moy?
Nothing at this time.
Commissioner Brett? 0. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I am wanted to remind you that Friday is our budget meeting here in this room at 8:30. We'll have breakfast and lunch will be provided, and we look forward to that. And I'm very pleased to announce that our good friends at the Lake James Fire Department will host our April pre-agenda meeting in one of the bays at the fire department. And earlier in that day, we plan to have some type of celebratory event for the Fonta Flora, the cover bridge on the trail, and that will be, we're thinking at 1 o'clock. So it'll be a full day on April 2nd for county business up at the lake. And that's all I have.
Great. Please move into the vacancy announcements.
Okay. Almost there. Thank you. We have the following opportunities for citizens to get involved in county boards and committees: the Hickory Regional Planning Commission, the Adult Care and Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee, Council on Aging, Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, the City of Morganton Board of Adjustment and Planning Board for the ETJ areas, the Voluntary Agriculture Board, Burke County Board of Adjustment and Planning Board, the Western Piedmont Regional Transit Authority Transportation Advisory Board, Partners Behavioral Health Management, the Animal Advisory Board, and Burke Senior Center Advisory Council.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Closing remarks from the chairman will be to those watching in tonight. Please do not litter Burke County, and if you see a piece of litter, please pick it up, and also have your pet spayed and or neutered. This time I'll entertain a motion to recess until Friday, February the 22nd, 2019 at 8:30 a.m.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. 5-0. Madam Clerk, we stand in recess until February 22nd.
Hello, I'm Brian Steen, the Burke County Manager, and I'd like to introduce you to Zeke, Ty, and Chloe. They're my 3 pets, and I adopted them all from rescue agencies. I hope if you're thinking about getting a dog or a cat, you'll consider contacting our local rescue agencies and adopt one. If you have a cat or a dog, I hope you'll also consider having them spay or neutered to help us reduce the number of unwanted pets in Burke County. Whatever you can do to help us would be appreciated, and in a moment we'll show you some contact information for both the rescue agencies in Burke County and agencies that can help you with low-cost spay and neuter. Thank you again. I hope you have a great day. Wolf.